Welcome to another episode of Duck's Electronic Repair Bench.
I just looked at my clock and it's 12:02, so it's afternoon, so I'll say good afternoon, YouTube. Here with you on this Friday afternoon to give you a little synopsis of the previous video that I did. I want to go over a few things that kind of occurred to me while I was doing this. I learned quite a few things about how to do this and get good results, and that's probably what I wanted to get back to you. First thing I wanted to point out was the fact that sometimes you can take a point of this radio, the working radio, and put it into the exact same point on the non-working radio, and it doesn't work like you think it will work. A good point of that was the audio. When I was testing the audio, I was taking the same point from both radios and connecting them, and I had a lot of distortion in there. I mean, we got the point across that the audio was working. I mean, you could hear the station in there through the garbled distortion it was producing. I believe, and I'm not certain on that, I believe that it was because there was no ground connected. Audio is funny that way. It has to have ground to work better than radio signals do, so I think that was the reason for that. But I also learned in other places when I was specifically when I took that test point from the reverse AGC and placed it on the reverse AGC of this radio, it didn't work. It didn't work until I just put it close to that transistor, that oscillator mixer transistor, and when I put it close to that, everything worked. I was kind of amazed, but I found that to be true a lot when I was doing this. It doesn't have to be necessarily the same place. When I was in the middle of the IF, I was taking the signal from one pin of the transformer on this one and injecting into another pin on the transformer, this one, same transformer. I think it was the second IF transformer. But it was the same transformer, but I was putting it into a different spot, and you heard I had a good signal. So as long as you can prove that the stages work, that's all you're interested in doing when using this type of method. You're not interested in the quality of the signal, you're not interested in the source of the signal. Just as long as you get a good signal out, or a signal at all out, you know those stages are working then, and that's all you're after. Another thing I found out on the especially when working towards the front end, the oscillator, the RF amp, you put a clip lead on any point there, you're going to change the tuning for this radio. And I found that I had to adjust the tuning capacitor to get that station back in after putting that clip lead on. So what I did was, usually I would put the clip lead here and put it over here, and if I didn't get anything where I thought I should get something, I started to play with the tuning capacitor, and then the radio would come in over here. So you know, you have to kind of watch that when you're playing with this stuff. This is not a signal generator. It doesn't put out a certain signal and things like that. This is a radio just like this is, so it has deficiencies, or whatever you want to call it, that will diminish the signal that you have coming out when you go poking around like that. So I just wanted you to be aware that not always was it as easy as it looked on the video. I didn't just put things there and it worked. But like I say, the thing I wanted to get across to you guys is you really kind of need to experiment with this stuff. As long as you have that capacitor between the two, you're okay. As long as you don't want to touch the chassis together, that's a no-no. But you can just experiment. Like I say, get a good signal out of this radio. And the main thing is, usually I found that if you take the output from one stage, just like the output of the mixer, and inject it in, or the whatever I was talking about, all the RF amp, and try to inject that into the next stage, the mixer. Now, in that case, you won't get that to work, and that's another thing I need to point out. The tuning on the radios would have to be exactly in the same spot, same frequency, for that to work, because we're taking RF, which is a certain frequency, and trying to inject that into this radio, which is not tuned to that frequency. You won't get the output of it. It just won't work. So really, this method is probably only good up to the oscillator, and that's as far as it goes. You really can't do anything before that, because, like I say, unless you're absolutely tuned to the same spot, and that's a little bit difficult if this one's not working. So, but again, that narrows it down. If you just use that to do that, you've narrowed that problem down there to the oscillator and the RF amplifier. That's just two little stages there. All you have to do is check in that stage, and you should find your problem. If you can eliminate this entire IF chain from being the problem, then you've eliminated a lot of the circuitry on this radio as to being the problem. So that's the point of this whole thing. Is if you don't have the correct equipment to do this, this is a method that you can use to do this. And like I said, it does work. It's just you may have to play around with, like I say, the point that you're placing your source at, and your destination on this side may have to be a little bit different point to get to your. When I was doing this IF chain in the middle, I noticed if I put it on one pin of the transformer and ran it to the other pin of the transformer here, I got better results than I did if I did it on the same pin on both transformers. So you just kind of have to experiment a little bit on what you're doing. Your main goal here on this side, on the non-working radio, is to get a signal through. It doesn't have to be a perfect signal, it just has to be a signal. If you can get a signal through here and it come out the speaker, you know that stage is working. It may not be working perfect, but it's working. It's working good enough to where you should be able to get a signal through the whole radio. So that's the goal of doing this, and I just kind of wanted to tell you that. I don't know how else to tell you, or what else to tell you, I should say. But that's pretty much all I had to say about that. This for me was an experiment. I've never actually tried this before. I always wanted to try it because I thought it was possible, and I know now that it is possible. And it would have saved me a lot of trouble a lot of times in the past when I didn't have a signal generator. But it didn't occur to me to try this, but it does work. I still want to do a tube type radio as the source, or either way, it doesn't matter. But I think all the tube type AM/FM radios I have work, so I kind of like to try that to see what the differences is. And again, you'd have to experiment a little bit on the inputs, where you put your probes, and where you put the probe on this side to get the signal through. It just takes some experimentation and some common sense, I guess is what I'm saying. But I do want to try that in the future. For right now, I think I'm going to end this series here with this. And like I said, I probably won't make any more videos this weekend. I have to pick up my granddaughters from school this afternoon about 3. And I'm pretty darn sure they're staying the weekend. This weekend, my daughter has a baby shower she has to go to Saturday. So they will be here. And unless something comes up to where they want to make a video, I probably won't make any. So I just wanted to let you know for that, and it'll probably be next week if I do that. I want to get on this radio here. I want to get this check this resistor that it may be bad on this one, and if it is, get that replaced. And I want to see if that transistor, oscillator mixer transistor, is good on this one. I did replace the one on here, but I don't know if I even had to. But I'm going to try and see if just replacing that bad resistor, if it is bad, will fix this one. So stay tuned for that when I get that. And as Gary said on Mr. Mach 1, it's Friday. So that means the weekend, guys. Everybody have a great weekend, and thank you so much for watching. I'll see ya.